Welcome back to the Reidel Law Firm YouTube and Odyssey channel. Today I want to chat a bit about common mistakes that small business owners make. So got a couple items here that I want to cover with you and share with you. Now, one thing about small business risks and liability is just understand that you can limit risk, right? Now, limiting your risk 100% is not feasible. It's not possible, right? Every business, every type of business activity is going to have some risk. Now, our job as attorneys, right, is to help you understand those risks so that we can find the best way to mitigate those risks. And that's really our prime role, right? As a small business attorney or business attorney in general, we look at the activity, we look at the risks that may be involved with that activity, and we find ways to mitigate risks. So that's the first topic that I want to just lay out there and kind of lay the foundation, I guess, for our conversation here. Now, the first common mistake I typically see is not taking care of legal matters and legal risks or activities on the front end, right? Now, depending on what activity it is and what risks may be involved, it may or may not be catastrophic, right? For example, if you're signing a short-term lease for 6 months, doesn't matter if there's liquidated damages or something, or even just 1 year. Probably not, because the liquidated damages would only be up to a year or up to 6 months worth of rent, very likely, right, on a commercial lease. So does it make sense to have a lawyer look at that kind of stuff or try and negotiate that? Probably not. Now, there are items that you probably may or may not be aware of that could definitely have a huge impact. So typically, I see a lot of this in franchising. I'll just tell you right off the bat that folks going into franchising who want to franchise their concept and their business, and they don't take the time and the effort to do it the right way at the forefront, or they cut corners, where they try to save a little cash or capital expense when they first start franchising, it almost always comes back to bite you in the butt. Almost always. I see it all the time, whether this is people trying to write their own FDDs or trying to do their own compliance. They end up selling in a different state, right, where they're not registered. Oops, it's going to cost you a lot of money, not just with lawyers. It's going to cost you fees and fines and penalties to the state that you should have registered in before you sold. Stuff like that, right, where a little pain at the front will save you potentially catastrophic results later on. For example, maybe it would have cost them $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 to, in the example of a franchisor, to register in a state. And instead, they sold a franchise in it and ignored the registration and ignored attorneys or didn't know about it. That, if they sold their franchise for $30,000 or $40,000 initial fee plus the royalties maybe a year later, it's very likely that they're going to have to pay back the entire initial franchise fee, $40,000, back to the franchisee, plus the royalties that they were paid, plus a fine, depending on what the state deems is appropriate, right? Some states it could be $5,000, $10,000 per instance, right, per sale. So you're looking at going from a $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 expense to now looking at probably $50,000 or more in total cost to clean up the mess, right? And that can happen very, very quickly. I've seen it happen within a year, right? You sell a franchise a year later, oops, you get caught, or someone realizes something was wrong, and there are extreme consequences because you either tried to save a little money at the front end, or you didn't know enough about what you were doing and tripped up on some legal requirements. So, number one, it is always better to do things right at the beginning than to try and fix it on the back end, 100%. All right, so second topic, most common, I guess, mistakes or items that trip up small businesses is liability, right? So this one's kind of a catch-all, limited liability, understanding it. What does it mean? Just because you have an LLC doesn't mean that you are, or a corporation for that matter, doesn't mean that you're safe from all liability. In certain circumstances, your assets as an owner are going to be protected. But if you don't do certain things, keeping your corporate formalities, your LLC formalities, signing contracts the right way, as in signing contracts as the LLC or as the corporation, you don't have limited liability, right? It's going to cut right through that. Any type of issue or claim is going to slice right through your LLC or corporation. So there are special rules and formalities and customs that you should follow when you form an LLC or form a corporation. Just having it's nice, it's good to have it, but you need to use it the right way. So that's it, right? Understanding limited liability, those vehicles, those protections, and making sure that you're taking the steps and the formalities each year to take care of what to take care of your risks, right? To mitigate those risks and to make sure that your wealth is insulated. So that was number 2. Number 3, what do I have? Number 3. Okay, sales talk. That's right. So understand the consequences of your sales talk, right? This is a common mistake 3. There are legal differences and significant consequences between something called, I guess, puffery, where he's saying, hey, we got, what would be a good puffery? It would be something that everyone recognizes that it's probably just, fake, right? Or not true, or just building something up. We just went through Christmas. You say something like, Santa's favorite chocolate, right? Or whatever, he's selling chocolates. Is it Santa's really his favorite chocolate? Probably not, right? In case there's any kids watching, probably not. But if you use language as saying like Texas #1 chocolate, right? Or Panama's #1 chocolate brand, that absolutely could be proven. And if it's factual or not, that's going to get you in trouble, right? That type of stuff. So understanding the legal consequence of your sales language. Now, that's in a very general business sense. I will say in specific industries like franchising and potentially like some compliance, some trade issues, the way that you sell things and what you say absolutely could be contractually binding, right? And it could even violate certain laws and statutes depending on what you're saying and how you're doing it, right? In franchising, if you don't have an earnings report, right, or what's called a financial performance representation, an FPR in item 19, you cannot put prospective or existing franchisees that they're going to break even, right? That they're going to break even or they're going to get a return on their investment. You are not permitted to say that if you don't have an FPR. And even if you have an FPR, if the FPR doesn't show that, then you can't say it either. I mean, if it shows that people are not making a return on investment, then you cannot claim that. So very, very important to recognize that it is more important in certain regulated industries than in general business. But I see this again and again in small business that folks don't really understand or maybe care about the consequences of their sales language, right? And the way that their salespeople are pitching certain things, right? Certain aspects of what their product does, right? A product or service. So wrapping up, what is this? I guess number 5 here. Mistake number 5, not protecting trade secrets. So trade secrets and intellectual property, again, this is kind of an umbrella. I've talked about this a bit on our channel, especially in franchising, but this is important also for international trade, 100%. If you are manufacturing certain things in other countries, or you have special logos or designs or intellectual property, patents, copyrights, trademarks, all of that, very, very important internationally as well that you protect it. So what the mistake is not protecting your intellectual property, right? Your trade secrets, your copyrights, your trademarks, your patents, all of that is valuable to you, right? All of that makes you special, unique, it's your secret sauce, whatever, right? And if you are undertaking business activities and not taking steps to protect those, you're playing with fire. Huge risk, right? Whether this is somebody that could take your concept from online, manufacture it cheaper and challenge you, or damage your brand domestically or internationally. I see it all. I see quite a bit all the time, right? Worked with some Amazon retailers, and they battle with Chinese, they battle with Chinese manufacturers and, I don't know, companies. I don't know if they're scam artists or not, whatever it is. But companies that will steal their intellectual property because they didn't protect it the right way, right? And they just have stuff floating around. And these Chinese companies in particular, I see it a lot in China, scoop up that IP, manufacture it cheaper, and directly compete with them on markets, right? Whether it's Amazon, retail, whatever. Yeah, big problem. So besides that, like with international trade and international stuff domestically, if you're franchising or you're thinking about franchising and you're not putting appropriate steps on protecting your trade secrets, protecting your processes and your internal systems, you got a huge problem, right? You are potentially releasing stuff into the world that you can monetize by franchising. So again, all right, that's a big one. It's depending on what intellectual property you have and what you're doing, the types of protections will vary, right? Trade secrets, typically you just have to protect them. You just have to not let them get out. A great example of this is Coca-Cola, right? The Coca-Cola formula. It's been locked and evolved, right? Only, 2 people know about it, supposedly. I don't know how there's some myth and fact mixed in with that, but the reality is that we, as the general public, don't know the precise formula and recipe to make Coca-Cola, right? People have tried. You can get, the knockoff colas or whatever all over, but they're not Coca-Cola, right? There's something special about them, and they don't release that formula, that recipe. They protect it. They protect it very well. They protect it over 100 years. And yeah, that's a prime example of how to protect your IP and to monetize it the right way. So if you're not careful and you're not doing those types of things, you could miss out on protection. You can't later come back and say, oh, we want to protect the recipe, even though we published it online. You can't do that. Courts won't allow you to do that. Once you let the cat out of the bag, it's out. It's gone. So be very, very careful about that. So that's a huge one that I see folks forget about, right? So anyways, I'm going to wrap it up. That is our, top 5. I lost count here. Common mistakes for small businesses. If you need help with running your small business or you have questions about any of these, reach out. Reidel Law Firm. We'd love to help you out. Primarily, we work in franchising and international trade, but we also work with small business owners across the country. So have a great one. We'll talk to you next time.